Just so you guys know who we are, some of you are Qgiv clients. So hello, Qgiv clients. I'm really happy that you're here. Some of you are not. So if you're unfamiliar with Qgiv, we're an online fundraising platform. But as much as we're a fundraising platform, we're really dedicated to teaching nonprofits how to do online fundraising really well. And that's why I'm here today, and that's why we have ongoing webinars and blogs and all kinds of stuff. So even if you aren't a Qgiv client, there's going to be a ton of content for you, and feel free to pop some questions in over there. I'm going to stop at the end of the webinar, and we'll have some time to kind of go over some of the questions that you have. Just for your own edification, we are recording this webinar. So on Monday or Tuesday of next week, you can expect an email from me. I'll send you a link to the recording, and I'll also send you some really great resources that we have about peer-to-peer fundraising. And some of that will come from me, some of it will come from other leaders in the nonprofit industry who are doing really wonderful things with peer-to-peer fundraising. So keep an eye on your inbox next week, and I will make sure that you get that email from us. Like I said, there's a chat box over there. You can ask me questions. I am usually the one that's moderating the questions, but today I am going to be talking at you. So I will check those questions at the end of the session, and I'll get to as many as I can, I promise. We are tweeting on the hashtag Qwebinar. So if you are the kind of fundraiser that is really into Twitter, you can absolutely follow us along or tweet your own highlights. And use that webinar hashtag, and I love getting insight onto what you guys find interesting. So those housekeeping things out of the way. Who am I? If you have attended any other Qgiv webinars, you have probably heard my voice, but you will not have heard it this extensively. I'm Abby Jarvis. I am the Director of Content over at Qgiv. I worked here for a little over 5 years, and one of the really cool things about working in the nonprofit industry for this long is I have seen hundreds of nonprofits through some absolutely fantastic peer-to-peer fundraisers. So not only do I get to see what works for them, I also get to see what doesn't work and what new things they're trying that maybe are making an impact that we didn't know would make an impact. And I'm also talking to you someone who works for Qgiv, but I've also used different fundraising platforms myself as a participant. So I'm coming at you from two kinds of directions here. So I am going to throw this out there because I do work for Qgiv. I'm going to show you a lot of examples of what some of these fundraising tools look like, and they're going to be Qgiv tools. But all of the things that I'm going to tell you today are doable on other platforms, and I'll show you examples and give you takeaways for each fundraising tool that you can put into practice no matter what you're using. So now that you know who I am, let's talk about peer-to-peer fundraising and why it is so important right now. Peer-to-peer fundraising has been going for a while. When you guys were kids, I'm sure you got like pledges for walkathons, or you did little fundraisers where you went around to your friends and family and asked them to donate to you for a cause. This peer-to-peer fundraising is essentially that kind of fundraising taken online. And it is getting increasingly popular, and it's getting increasingly effective. So there's a really interesting organization called the Peer-to-Peer Professional Forum, and every year they take a look at the top 30 peer-to-peer fundraisers in the country, and they pull some really fascinating insights from that. And one of the most fascinating pieces of information that they have been noticing over the last several years is that the average participant in a peer-to-peer fundraiser the average participant raises more money year over year. So in 2017, in the top 30 events, the average participant raised $195.75. That's almost $200 per person, and that's up 9% over the year before, which if you guys are, working with fundraisers, that is an unbelievable stat. They're also noticing that many participants are moving away from really big, popular, like name brand peer-to-peer fundraisers. The small events are growing, but the big events are kind of slowing down. So that gives us a really fascinating piece of information that we can do a lot with. There is a ton of innovation happening in the peer-to-peer fundraising world right now, and people are passionate about getting involved in a variety of different ways to raise money for the organizations they care about. People want to make a difference. People want to raise money. People want to be an advocate for the nonprofits and the missions that they love. The only thing that we need to worry about is whether or not we give our supporters the tools they need and the direction and guidance they need to actually be successful fundraisers. So here's how you get in on this. So if you want to be successful, if you want to throw an absolutely amazing peer-to-peer fundraiser, there are two things that you need to do. You need to recruit people who are really passionate about what you're doing, and then you need to equip them to raise money for you. And that second part is often really hard for us because we're professional fundraisers. You're professional fundraisers. The people that we're recruiting are not. So once we get them in the door, we need to make sure they have the tools that they need to actually go out and raise money for you. So those are the two things that fundraisers really need to do. They need to attract the right people. They need to make sure that they sign up. And then they need to give them the tools that are necessary for them to do a good job. So I looked at all of these hundreds of nonprofits who have done some really cool stuff, and I've kind of narrowed it down to these 5 tools that really will make an impact on the success of your peer-to-peer fundraiser. So again, the things I'm going to show you should be applicable to everybody, and I'm going to give you takeaways for each one that you can go and do today when you leave here. So first tool, user-friendly design. I know half of you probably rolled your eyes just now because everyone says that their design is user-friendly. But I can tell you that there are parts of design that we don't often think about. So here are some high points for good design. It should be eye-catching and engaging, but it shouldn't be overwhelming. So I have landed on some gnarly pages, funky backgrounds and flashing lights and music that's embedded in pages that starts playing as soon as I click on the link. And it's very overwhelming. It's certainly eye-catching, but it's very overwhelming. So be eye-catching, but not overwhelming. The other thing that I know all of you have thought about is the story that you're telling on the page. Having a really fantastic story about why you're fundraising and what your supporters are funding, that's a huge part of inspiring people to either give to your event or to sign up to participate in your event. You should back that story up with images. Humans are hardwired to react to images. You could have the best story in the whole world, but an image will just take that story to the next level. Images are also really helpful when you're coming up with branding ideas, or if you are working on copy for your page and you get stuck. Having a great image is an absolute foundation for great page design. If you really want to get people engaged and inspired and get your story across, try using video to convey the message that you want to convey. I know if you have been on the internet for more than 3 minutes, you probably know that one of the #1 ways people give information now is through video. It's easy to digest, it's very emotional, and people connect very quickly with video. I think Google did a study a few years ago that showed that 57% of people who watch a fundraising video will go on to make a donation. So it's absolutely a very powerful tool that you can include in your page design. It should be user-friendly, which, again, everybody says, oh, your page should be user-friendly. So I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. But the big takeaways are it should be easy when someone lands on your page to figure out where they need to go and figure out how to get there. So I'll show you some examples of what that looks like in a minute. And then one thing that I see a lot of people struggle with is a really strong call to action. So make sure you're telling people like, hey, you watched this video and you should get involved. sign up to participate right now. Or, hey, you landed on this page with this heart-rending, beautiful story. Donate to me. So the good, strong call to action is a very big part of really good user design. So here's an example of what it looks like. And I'll show you more close-up pictures of this event. Just as a little bit of background, this event is the Women of Central Florida fashion show that is put on by a local client, the Central Florida Speech and Hearing Center. They went out of their way to work really hard on setting up a fantastic peer-to-peer event. And kind of keep in the back of your head, one of the effects that they have seen since they started doing this fundraising event and on a peer-to-peer platform, they saw a 300% increase in funds raised on this event. So here are some elements of what made them successful. So when you look at their page, it's very streamlined. There's not a lot going on. You got your story and your information about the actual event here. There's a really sweet video, which I wish I could link you guys directly to this video because it made me cry, and it made me want to support this event, and it's over. They've got their thermometer here that shows their progress. They've got a little sponsors area. They've got social sharing buttons, and they've got some options to either vote for a candidate by donating to them, or they've got options to buy tickets, and then they've got a leaderboard for the people who are competing. So it's very straightforward. It's very easy to navigate. The branding is consistent throughout, so you'll see they picked like 3 colors and they just kind of went with it. So it's eye-catching, but it's not overwhelming. They've got a really great story. And then if you look, they have very strong calls to action. Vote now or buy tickets. And so they kind of keep it limited to that. So this is kind of like, this is what you're going for. This is a good, cohesive, simple page. And then let me show you some details about what makes it extra useful. So when I say that a page to be user-friendly should be easy to navigate, this is what I'm talking about. It's often tempting for us to use kind of kooky or cute navigation item titles, but that can actually be really confusing for people who want to support you. So here they kept it very simple. You can go to the event home. You can see the women who are modeling. Just for your background, this event centers on a group of women, local women, who are modeling in this fashion show, and you can vote for your favorite model by donating, and a dollar is 1 vote. So you can see the models, you can vote for a model or sponsor one if you already know who you want to talk to. You can buy tickets to the event, and you can see sponsors, and that's it. They kept it really minimal. They didn't link you to 85 different pages. You only give people a few options, and they're much more likely to do what you would like them to do: buy tickets, sponsor a model, or visit your event home. So short, simple, and sweet navigation. Very good for design. This is my favorite, you guys. This organization included a video. And they actually showed this video to some people at Qgiv, and I don't think there was one dry eye in the building. They spent little time and little space on their page writing out the story or writing out an appeal for models or for people to vote. Instead, they used a video. And the video made a really great case for getting involved. So if you want to have a user-friendly design that inspires people to donate or to get involved, look into using a video. It does boost donations. Like I said, there was that really interesting Google study that shows that people are very likely to donate if they watch a great video. When you have calls to action like donate, it really reinforces those and strengthens those appeals. And it also helps your potential donors relate to your mission on a personal level. If they get emotionally involved in your mission, they're much more likely to go on to make a donation. So if it's possible, include a video on your event page. That design is very powerful, or that design element is very powerful. This is less emotional, but very important. One thing that you should kind of keep in mind is that you want people to register to participate in your event, especially if you are throwing an event that is like a walk run or a bicycling event, or one that we've even seen, one particular Boys and Girls Club set up a campaign where their board members made fundraising pages and raised money that way. You want people to participate in your event. But one of the biggest obstacles to overcome when you're recruiting participants is that users are intimidated by very long forms. And if you have run a peer-to-peer event before, you know that forms can get very long. You have to collect a lot of information about the people who are about to fundraise for you. So one way you can kind of overcome that obstacle is by splitting your registration process into many pieces. So one thing you can see right here, you ask people how they want to get involved. You have them create a little account so they can log in and participate. But all of the parts of the registration process are split up. You do the registration, you can decide if you want to buy any merchandise, then you check out and you get your thank you. So a form that could be very long with lots of extra fields, it's overwhelming and people don't want to finish them. But if you can make it a little more user-friendly and split the registration process into many different pieces, people will be more likely to actually finish the process. So it's not something that we often think about, just because you're so excited about getting people involved and getting people signed up and then getting them involved in raising money. But the actual experience that people have while they're registering for your event will have a big impact on how successful they are. So take a look at that. Another piece that is really good, once your participants are signed up, encourage them to have the same kind of user-friendly design that you have already established on your fundraising page. Example I took from a client who it's Children's Minnesota, and they do a lot of fundraising for different clinics and hospitals throughout their state. And one thing that they're really great at is they recruit people who have beautiful stories about how they have benefited from the services that are offered. And they encourage people to upload slideshows. I didn't post the story that this particular team told, but it's very easy for people to tell stories on this platform. So user-friendly design is important on your event page, but it's also important on your team and your participant pages. So, and you can see over here with the amount that they raised, those pieces on your event page are important, but they're especially important on individuals' fundraising pages. If you can build a design for your event that lets people share their stories in a meaningful way, you will absolutely see better donor conversions, you'll see more donors, and you'll see participants who are more excited and engaged in the fundraising process. So look at user-friendly design for your participant pages too. And then, as ever, we cannot forget about our donors. User-friendly design extends to donors also. So one thing, we took this again from the Central Florida Speech and Hearing event. It is very easy for you to land on this page and try to find a model. So you can search right here. They did what we love seeing our clients do. They have suggested donation amounts, which is not something that we often associate with peer-to-peer events. But this is very useful. Not only does it help your users make a decision about how much they want to donate, people are actually also much more likely to give a larger donation amount if you have suggested amounts. So that's a design piece you can decide to include on your page. One thing that's very important while you are laying out your design for your donation part of your event, make sure you do include the other field. If someone lands on this page and doesn't want to donate a minimum of $50, you don't want to lose out on their donation because they don't have the option to make a different donation amount. So that's one very important piece of design for your donation form. And this is another. You're going to have to ask additional questions, especially if you are asking donors to attend an event like this page does. Try very hard to keep additional fields to a minimum. Here they included 2 additional fields and they included 3 different checkboxes. Those are kept minimum or kept to a minimum for a reason. Just like the registration process, donors are easily overwhelmed by very, very long forms. So this is a place to gather the bare minimum of the information that you need, and then you can do additional outreach after a donor has made a gift. So if you want to boost the number of donors who actually complete a transaction on a page, this is definitely an area you should review. Make sure that you have just a few additional fields for your donors to fill out. And then this piece is kind of the last place we think about having a great user experience, but it's very important. When you get down to the payment and the billing information on your donation form, I have some suggestions on how to boost conversion. Right here, this box, same as my personal information box, is very important. The last thing you want to do is put off donors by making them fill in information that they've already entered. So having that box checked is a very useful way to boost donor conversion just by keeping your form simplified. The other thing that I'm going to show you is this security certificate down here. I don't know how many of you have had your financial information compromised through data leaks. I know I've had mine leaked twice, once through Target and once through something else. I'm always very leery about putting my payment information in different forms, especially if they don't have a security certificate here. So security certificates aren't cute. They don't fit your branding. They look kind of weird down at the end. A lot of people are interested in hiding those security certificates just because they're not cute. But please leave those there. Your donors will appreciate it. Your donors will feel more secure about actually giving you a donation, and that's a very important feeling to foster in your donors. So that's kind of a very high-level overview of good user-friendly design for a peer-to-peer event. So here are some things you can do right now. When you look at your event, and I'm going to tell you this for your peer-to-peer event, for your regular year-round donation pages, anything you're doing, look at it with fresh eyes. Go look at your page and pretend you've never seen it before and see if you can find anything that needs to be updated. You might want to change out some images that are a little outdated. You might want to add a video that makes a really great case for supporting you. You might want to check on the navigation pieces on your page. You might even want to click on all those navigation items to see if they still take you to the correct pages or if maybe you have a broken link somewhere. You can also go through a donation form or an event registration form or a participation registration form and see if there are any extra fields that you can get rid of. Maybe you can combine some fields. Maybe you can follow up with donors or participants after they've finished their transaction and get more information there. You can also kind of combine that piece with the registration process. Is there any way you can streamline the registration process? Anything you can do to simplify supporting your organization will help you. And kind of on that note, it is hard to look at branding and pages with fresh eyes. So recruit a friend or a family member and ask them to use your page, ask them to make a small donation or ask them to register for something and get their feedback on what it's like. I have never had a more illuminating experience than when I asked my mother to help me troubleshoot a page that I had built out for a fundraiser that I was participating in. If you're a professional fundraiser, you know what things are supposed to look and feel like, but maybe your donors want something different. So recruiting someone to take a look at your pages is a very, very fast, cheap way to get some valuable insight on the way things are set up. So those are some things you can do right now to kind of make sure that your design is where it needs to be. The next tool to talk about is my personal favorite, and it's a buzzword that we hear a lot in the peer-to-peer world. I'm talking about gamification. And gamification is a very fancy way of saying that you are making fundraising a game for the people who are supporting you. So if you have ever used something like Couch to 5K, or if you've ever used something like LinkedIn, or if you've ever used anything that rewards you for hitting different milestones, you have used a tool that includes gamification. In particular, peer-to-peer gamification kind of fosters a sense of friendly competition between your participants. And if you can get people to have that kind of little friendly competition, they will inspire each other to stay involved and raise more money. People stay engaged longer if they have something that they're working toward. So if they're working toward a badge, or if they really want to be on the leaderboard on your event homepage, they have a goal that they're working toward, and it keeps people involved. I'll also show you this in a minute. You can actually use gamification pieces to teach your participants how to use your tools. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like in a minute. So this is what gamification looks like on a practical level. If you have ever run a peer-to-peer event or even donated to one, you know that they probably have a thermometer somewhere on the page. It helps you visualize how much money you've raised and how much money there's left to be raised. And it's a really great basic gamification piece. There are also leaderboards. That is super fun, especially if you are running a walk-run event or a bicycling event where you have teams of people. You can encourage friendly competition between teams. You can also encourage that competition and encourage increased engagement by setting aside or creating badges for people who hit certain fundraising milestones. So if you really want someone to hit their fundraising goal of $1,000, you can pick milestones throughout their fundraising lifetime that will be marked with a badge when they hit it. You can also use pieces like walkthroughs, whether that is built into your platform or something that you do independently. You can show your participants how to use the platform by making learning the platform a game. And then voting and incentives are super neat. You saw an example of voting where donors voted for a model by donating to them. And you can also use incentives, especially incentives that are tied to a badge, that give participants an extra little goal to work towards. So say someone achieves the top fundraiser of badge and they maintain that at the end of the event. You could have a prize, whether it's a tangible one, like an event flag or something, or intangible, like a lunch with a client of yours, or a tour of your event, or tickets to a gala. Having incentives is a very powerful way to reinforce people's commitment to participating in your event. And here are some examples of what this can look like. So this is something that we do at Qgiv, and there are ways to do this on other platforms. Here we have this little tool where we want to teach participants how to raise money by showing them how to use the platform. So you can put together either a walkthrough like this, or you can put together info sheets, or even do in-person training if you have a small group of participants, to show them how to use the tools available to them. We have noticed at Qgiv that participants who actually finish their profile and take some basic actions, not anything crazy, just basic actions like sending a simple fundraising email, posting a link to their fundraising page on Facebook, those very simple actions can result in a huge boost in fundraising. So if you can come up with a creative way, whether it's online, like in your platform, or offline in a group, to show your participants how to use the tools available to them, they are much more likely to get involved and stay that way. And a big part of this is because, again, these people who are signing up for your event are not professional fundraisers. So these can do a little hand-holding, either digital hand-holding or actual in-person hand-holding. You give them the confidence that they need to raise more money, and that's good for them and it's great for you. So here's an example from that Central Florida Speech and Hearing fashion show. This one was a contest, so there's voting. But one way they raised as much as they did is they established a sense of competition. So they had this leaderboard that was always updated. Participants love seeing themselves on a leaderboard, and donors love seeing the people that they're voting for make progress on a leaderboard. This is a really powerful way to kind of tap into that sense of friendly competition. And at Qgiv, we actually had a client tell us there was a small group of fundraisers who are participating in a paddle boat race, and all of the people who are participating were in a meeting, a committee meeting for this event. And 3 of them actually got kind of jokingly called out because those 3 participants were battling for the top fundraiser badge, and they got caught in this committee meeting hard refreshing on their iPads because they wanted to see if they had been demoted or promoted to the top fundraiser. So leaderboards are a hugely powerful way to tap into a person's desire to win. So consider using leaderboards next time you do an event. This is what badges kind of do as well. It's not a live leaderboard that's on your event site, but you can encourage your participants to try to hit different milestones by rewarding them with a badge. Just to get scientific for a second, when you win a badge, or if any of you play video games, if you earn a trophy or level up on a video game, our brains release a little bit of dopamine, and our brains actually reward us for getting items like badges. So if you can kind of tap into that system, if you can reward your participants for engaging in your event, you have a group of inspired people who are dedicated to raising money for your event. So here's how one of our clients did it. I pulled this from a chapter SPCA that runs a big event every year. And to keep people inspired and engaged in the fundraising process, they made these different levels of badges. So you could raise anything. If you raised $150, you were level 1, and that's fantastic. And if you raised $1,000 or more, you were level 4. And the amount of people that I saw fundraising on my Facebook because they wanted to level up was astonishing. One thing this SPCA did that was super great is they did tie some incentives, some physical incentives to earning a badge, but people weren't necessarily inspired by getting a t-shirt or a leash and collar or something for their pet. They were really excited about earning these badges and showing off their badges to their friends and supporters. So if you decide to do some kind of gamification piece, whether or not you use badges, it is really great for your participant engagement to have markers for important milestones and then acknowledge and reward people for hitting those milestones. So you can get kind of creative with how you do that, whether you track it through your fundraising platform or track it online or track it offline if you aren't using a CRM. These milestones and rewarding people for hitting milestones is very, very compelling. For your donors, donors are a little different. Donors, you want to inspire them to make a donation, and then that's kind of it. You don't need to have your donors engaged in an ongoing campaign. One way you can inspire your donors is by showing them visually the impact their donation will make. So if you look at your event page, you've got your thermometer, you've got a beautiful story that's telling your potential donor about the campaign that you're funding or the project that you're funding. You have a video that's absolutely beautiful and it pulls at your heartstrings, and then the donor looks over at your thermometer and you see that you're 60% to your goal and they want to help you reach that goal. So thermometers are classic for a reason. I don't know if you guys are like me. When I was a kid, I used to have to raise money for my school. So we had the little like poster board with a thermometer on it, and you like colored in every day like how much progress you'd made. Um, People have used fundraising thermometers for a long time for a reason. It's because they work. So a visual marker of the impact that they're making on your fundraising goals. So this is a powerful way to do that. And as classic as it is, it does still count as gamification. So if you are using a platform that doesn't include a thermometer widget or something, there are tons of free options online that you can use. So if you need a thermometer, go check out the options that are available to you. There are plenty out there. So gamification, here's what you can do right now when we're done with this webinar. Look at your event and see if there's any way you can add a leaderboard, or even if you can just recognize the people who are doing the most fundraising for you. See if there's a way that you can recognize them either on your event page or on social posts. Use a thermometer or some kind of tracking item. There are free ones, there are fundraising platforms that include them. Find a way to help your donors visualize the impact that they're making. Like I said, whether or not you're using badges, try setting fundraising milestones and decide how you're going to reward your participants for hitting those milestones. Participants love knowing that their efforts are being recognized and appreciated, and that's a very powerful way to keep them involved. Even if you don't have the opportunity to sit down with your participants one-on-one and show them how to use the fundraising tools, try putting together a fundraising kit to give your fundraisers some best practices. Maybe give them a template for an email, or give them some ideas about how to reach out to their friends and family, or show them how to log in and update the story on their fundraising page. Participant toolkits, whether they're digital or emailed to them, or you can hand it out at a meeting, are very powerful ways to reassure your participants that they can actually raise money for you. It can be intimidating, and participant toolkits really help. So a third, speaking of all of this help, a really valuable third tool are email campaigns for your participants. So email campaigns are very, very useful, but they kind of boil down to one thing. They are targeted emails that you send to your participants throughout the event. So if you have an event and the fundraising window is 2 months, you don't want to have your participant register to fundraise for you and then never talk to them again until the day before, 2 days before the event. You want to have consistent communications with them, and that will help keep them engaged in the fundraising process. To make these the most effective, you can set rules around what emails you want to send to which participants and when you want to send them. And that is really useful because it ensures that you're sending really good, relevant content to the people who are working for you. People tend to kind of zone out and not listen or read what you're saying if they feel like it's not relevant to their situation. So building out a good email campaign can really help keep your participants engaged with your organization so you can communicate with them effectively. It's also very useful for conveying event details as you get up to your event. Sometimes event venues change, or sometimes you need to tell all of your participants that the race starts at 8:30, but you really need them to get there by 7:30 so they can sign in. Email campaigns are very useful, not only for just encouraging people to stay involved, but to give them valuable information that you need them to understand. And here's kind of what one looks like. It should always be relevant to your participants' experiences. So segment out your participant list. There are 1,000 different ways you can do that. Most of them depend upon the style of your event. So if you're doing like a walk run and you have a walk and a 5K and a 10K, you might kind of want to segment out each of those different types of participants. They should be encouraging. and they should also be informative. And the big thing you want to convey is that you're super, super stoked that they're raising money for you, and you really, really appreciate all their hard work. And then you give them a little takeaway. So whether it's how to make a really great appeal, or the best possible way to, I don't know, send a fundraising email. You want to encourage them, you want to thank them, you want to give them an actionable little piece of content, and then you want to thank them again and sign off there. So here's an example of a really good, I like to think it's really good because I made it, participant email. So big thing, big, huge, obnoxious, bright graphic, gets people's attention. The core message here is that my participant is amazing and she's working so hard and I really appreciate it. And when you get down into the body of the email, this girl is Lucy. Whoops. This participant is Lucy. She's raised more than $500, which is absolutely immense. She's probably earned a badge or two. She's in the top % of fundraisers. I'm really trying to get Lucy feeling good about the fact that she's doing an amazing job. I threw in a little thing. Did you know that your donors are more likely to support you if they know that other donors have also supported you? So I gave her a little bit of ideas, or a little bit of an idea about how to get more people to donate to her. And then I reiterated again, she's amazing and she's blowing away the fundraising game, and she's really doing a great job. So this is kind of a basic blueprint for a participant email. If you have a group of participants, and every peer-to-peer professional does, if you have a group of participants that signed up to support you and then they never raised $1, you can target your email to them like, hey, thank you so much for getting involved. We really appreciate that you want to support us. Here are some really easy ways you can get started fundraising. The more you're able to target your message to different groups within your own base of participants, the more effective that messaging will be. And this is only semi-related, but I learned this at a recent conference, and I'm just going to throw this in there. If you guys really want to capitalize on those $0 fundraisers, the people who sign up and want to support you, they never really get around to it. Maybe they're intimidated by the tools, or maybe they're just too busy. If you send them a couple of these participant emails and nothing really happens, try sending them an email just asking them to donate to their event. Maybe they're not comfortable asking friends and families to support them, but you can send them this little email. You're doing such a great job. Thank you for supporting us. If you really want to go above and beyond, consider donating here to help us reach this goal. That's just a little side note. So here are some takeaways, things that you can do right now, today. Whether or not you have a fundraising platform that has crazy reporting, and whether or not you have a CRM, and whether or not you have all these kooky tools that a lot of fundraisers use, you can always come up with a way to segment your participant base. So figure out kind of what's in the realm of possibility for you, and then create emails to each of your little segments that focuses on encouraging them and inspiring them. Another thing you can do that will save you a lot of time and effort, before your event starts, when you're still in the planning process, come up with a rough schedule of when you can send emails. Maybe you want to send an event update 3 days before, and maybe you want to send a last-minute event update the day before the event, and maybe you want to encourage people to try to recruit more fundraisers a month before the event. You can come up with a very rough, basic schedule that will help you keep participant engagement at the forefront of your mind as you're planning the event. If you don't have the tools, or if you have the tools to do so, whether you're using some huge email system or whether you're using Campaign Monitor or some of the other email systems, see if you can schedule out basic emails that you know you're going to have to send anyway, and see if you can do that ahead of time. I know when I get really busy, I will often think to myself oh yeah, I should totally send that person an email update. And then I just get so busy that I don't do it. So scheduling out in advance everything you can schedule in advance will keep a lot of the mental burden of remembering to send different emails at different times off of your plate. So those are some things you can do right this minute. After you do these things, take a look at this next tool, and we're going to talk about matching gifts. And I know that this is kind of an art in and of itself. If any of you have ever tried to work with matching gifts before, or work with corporate sponsors, or do any of that, I could probably do a whole webinar on matching gifts. I won't right now because I respect your time, but we're gonna kind of plow our way through this. So at its heart, matching gifts is a campaign where you pal up with some corporate partners, and they promise to match gifts made to you. And there are usually limits set by the partner. Maybe they only want to support gifts from employees of theirs, or maybe they'll match the first $25,000 raised at your organization. But there are usually limits, and those are usually managed by the corporate itself. This is great for boosting donations. This is great for boosting peer-to-peer donations, and it's also really useful just for year-round donations. Donors love knowing that their gift makes a difference. And if a donor knows that if they give $50, they're actually making a $100 difference, that's a very compelling pitch to donors. So matching gifts can be a really valuable way to boost all of the money that's coming in, of course, but it can also really have a big impact on individual gifts. And here's kind of what that looks like on your end. There are bunches of ways to do matching gifts. You can do it in platform if you have that option. There are third parties out there that have these crazy algorithms that help you find matching gifts that you might not even know exist. And you can also do it by hand. So if you want to do matching gifts, there are absolutely ways to make it happen. The big thing is that your donors and your registrants shouldn't have to struggle to figure out how to make a matching gift. So here we kind of have just a basic example. The participant will indicate that their donation can be matched. They enter the matching donor and the matching amount, and that's it. It's kind of on the back end. It's kind of what you and I have to do to figure out whether or not that gift is actually going to be matched, and then it's on us to figure out how to get it to you. But for your donors and your registrants, it should be very simple for them to indicate that their gift can be matched. And then whatever you do, please make sure that you recognize the companies that match donations for you. Nonprofits are so good at understanding that participants and donors need to be loved and recognized and thanked. And sometimes we forget about the corporate sponsorships that we have. So make sure that you recognize the companies that are actually matching donations for you. This is kind of one thing that you can look at. This is another screenshot of what it actually looks like in an event. You can either do this in your platform, or if you can't do that, maybe you can include, I know we're going to shutter, and I know I told you not to add additional fields, but sometimes you can add an additional field where a donor or a participant can indicate that their gift is matched. That would require some hands-on time from you, but it's certainly doable. So this is kind of what it looks like on the form that your donors and participants will see. This is an example of a widget. This is a company called Double the Donation. There are a few others who are a third-party system that offers matching gifts help. And this is just a widget that you can plug into your peer-to-peer event. So if you're using a third-party vendor to help you with matching gifts, talk to them and see if they can help you out by giving you something like this that you can put on your donation and participant registration forms. And if you're doing it by hand, which a lot of people do, this is a very good option. It shows matching gift sponsors. You would maybe put this, I wouldn't necessarily put this on your event page, but if you have a sponsors page, like our example did earlier in the webinar, this is a really awesome way to let people know that there are options out there for matching gifts. So I mean, I made these up, but if you have an organization that's offering to match a particular team and the money that they raise up to a certain point, including them on a sponsors page is a really great way, one, to recognize the people who are helping you out, and two, to inform participants and donors that their gift might be able to be matched. So if you do things kind of offline and you work with corporations in person to get matched gifts, this is a really great way to recognize them and inform people. So if you want to start matching gifts, here's some things you can do right now. The big thing that you can do is to find relationships with local companies, local especially. Local companies love supporting their local nonprofits, and try to build a relationship with a company whose mission kind of matches yours. So in the previous screen, I showed you my sponsors that I made up. There's the Greenhouse Garden Store and there's Fancy Free Nursery. So for that event, I'm pretending that I'm saving endangered species. So I would want to go talk to a company that's really interested in plants. If you are a medical-focused nonprofit, maybe you go talk to some local clinics or some local doctors and see if they would want to sponsor you. The more you can match your corporate sponsors with the actual mission and the service that you provide, the better that relationship will be both for you and for your sponsor. If you have matching gifts relationships already, make sure you tell people that they can have their gifts matched. A lot of donors don't even know that matching gifts are a thing. And a lot of people won't ask you if they can match their gift. So make sure you put it on social posts, on your donation page, on your event page, build it into your marketing plans. Just let people know in any way you can that that's an option for them. And then, like I said, make sure you recognize and thank matching gifts partners. Not only does it make them feel super awesome about the fact that they're supporting you, it also shows other potential partners that that's an option for them too, and then they'll get some traffic out of it. The last tool we're going to talk about are social integrations. I'm sure you are already thinking about this if you are a peer-to-peer fundraiser. Peer-to-peer fundraising is a very social game. It's your supporters reaching out to their networks and asking for support. So the easier you can make that outreach, the better. You can also give your participants tools like templates. You can schedule posts out, and that makes it easier for them, and honestly, it makes it easier for you to plan out your social calendar leading up to the event. So here are some things you can do. Templates, super valuable. Like I said, your participants are probably not professional fundraisers. They may have done this before, but this isn't what they do for a living. So if you give them templates, you can make sure that they're conveying the mission of your event and the goals, and you can kind of keep your branding consistent across all of these different social platforms. Posts, you can either schedule them for you, you can schedule them out or post them manually. You can do the same for your participants. But here is one major takeaway for you. If you use Facebook with any kind of irregularity, you might have noticed that they have removed the option to change the thumbnail and the meta description of any URL you post on your page. So if you have a tool that lets you set the meta description and the thumbnail that will be posted anytime you or a participant or a donor or whoever shares your event, you can control the branding on social media. I think we've all probably tried to post a link and Facebook just pulls this random image that's absolutely useless from your page and you can't change it. So this is a way to get around it. Here's an example. This is one I did for an event, so ignore my goofy profile picture. I posted an update that was posted automatically when I hit half of my goal. You can see that the image here was preset, as was the meta description here. So it established it let me tell my story, but it conveyed the branding and the tone that the event actually had in all of its materials. And then here's another example. When your donors and participants land on your homepage, Hermione Granger didn't actually get this badge, but I had to pick a name. So if you notice here, everyone can share these different event pieces. So maybe Hermione wants to share that she just earned the most donors badge, and she can kind of pick if she wants to post it or tweet it. Another thing that I would really encourage you is to allow your donors to share their donation on social media. That's what these buttons are down here. So you can see this is on a landing page for a donor. They gave up $250, you got a thank you message, and then they're invited to share on Facebook and Twitter. And one of the reasons that's such a powerful tool is that it taps into the concept of social proof. People want to know that other individuals that they respect have been supporting a cause. That's why companies like posting testimonials on their page. When people know that others are supporting a cause, they're more likely to support a cause too. So if you can encourage your donors to share on Facebook that they donated to your event, that's a very powerful way to have your donors advocating for you on a very public level. So you might see a boost in donations there. So here are some things you can do right now to help out with these social parts. Whether or not you're using a platform that has a social tool built in, or if you're using just the participant toolkit that you're setting up for your participants, come up with some templates, just basic ones that people can use. Sometimes, especially if you are running an event with a lot of professionals who are participating, people are busy. Sometimes you don't want to sit down and come up with a whole Facebook post. If you give them a template that they can copy and paste and then kind of tweak for a second and then post immediately, they're going to be much more likely to post. The same is true if you give them talking points or images or videos to share. Anything you can do to make sharing your event easier is going to be a win for you. On your side, on the back end for your event, you can set some social options like the thumbnail and the meta description of what's going to show up. You can also choose milestones that you're going to mark with social posts and see if you can set this up ahead of time. Even if your event is a long way out, you can pre-schedule some posts, posts reminding people that your event is in 3 days. Anything you can do ahead of time is going to help you out when you are running around like a crazy person in the days before your event. So those are some actionable things you can do right now to make your life a little easier. So now what? You have gone through this webinar. I've thrown an astonishing amount of information at you. I've showed you a bunch of screenshots of what other organizations are doing and how it's worked out for them. So here are 5 things that you can do right now, regardless of where you are in your scheduling or where you are in your and the tools that you have available to you. You can evaluate your page design. Either you do it or you ask a friend to do it. That's something that you can do for free right now. You can take a look at how you are getting your fundraisers in the door and how you are communicating with them and keeping them excited about it. And you can look at what you can do to improve that communication. Whether that's something as simple as doing a quick little 2-group segment, or whether it's building out an entire email drip campaign going out to your different fundraisers. You can certainly always find a place to improve. If you have any matching gifts opportunities, pursue those and see what's going to happen. And then you can also have a little quick meeting and look at how your messaging is going to go out across social media. So those are some things you can do today. If you want some extra resources, I'm going to send you a follow-up email early next week, and I'll have links to some resources that you'll like, links to some blogs that you would like. I'll send you an ebook that will really help you with a lot of this stuff. But if you want to do, some light reading over the weekend or something, here are some very useful links. These are absolute experts in the peer-to-peer fundraising field. If you are looking for ideas, if you're looking for ways to improve your fundraising, here, these blogs and these people are great. And of course, I threw the Qgiv blog in there too, because I have a special soft spot in my heart, Qgiv blog. So I'm going to leave that up for a minute. I am going to go over and look at the questions and see if I have any questions I can answer for you. Oh, Tess appreciated my Harry Potter reference. I'm very excited that you, nice. I actually have another person who said that they were getting off the phone to talk with one of other people. If you have any questions, totally feel free to type them in there. I understand it's 3 o'clock and you guys are probably tired of listening to me talk, but if you got questions, you can totally feel free to tweet at me. Our Twitter handle is down there. You can also email me. My email address is abby.jarvis@qgiv.com, and I'm happy to answer any emails. Other than that, I want to be respectful of your time. It's 3 o'clock, so I'm going to let you guys go. If you guys would like to see any other future webinars that we have going on, I'll send you a couple of links in that follow-up email. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me yammer at you. I know how hard you work. Fundraising is hard. Peer-to-peer fundraising is like being an event planner and a fundraiser at the same time. You do valuable work. We're happy to support you, and I would love to talk to you if you have any more questions. On that note, I hope you have a fantastic Thursday, and I will hopefully see your faces, or at least your names, in a future webinar. So, signing off. Have a good day. Oh, my arm is